How's it going, everyone? We are coming up into 2024, and let's be real, that PlayStation Plus Essential Library reveal, or catalog reveal, I guess you would call it, for 2024, January of 24, we started things off with a great month, and maybe some of you guys decided to re-up your membership, whatever the deal is. Obviously, I've been very critical of PS Plus Extra and Premium and Essential, especially after the price increase as a whole, but January, at least, we're kicking things off in a big way, and I do want to highlight 10 PlayStation Plus Extra titles, or PlayStation Plus games in general, because I do want to mention one of the Essential games that is being added that you should play in January. I have been critical about the fact that Extra's price increase came with no value proposition increase, but the actual value in terms of the game catalog, you could easily make an argument that it's still a worthwhile subscription service to have if you take advantage of the games available in the catalog. With that being said, want to highlight 10 games I think you should play in January. Now, before we get into this video, I just want to ask you guys, please like this video and do leave a comment with your thoughts. It really does help out the channel a lot, and it is much appreciated. So let's get started. Right off the top, added in January as a part of Plus Essential, A Plague Tale Requiem is of course a game I would highly recommend. Now this is the direct sequel to A Plague Tale Innocence, so obviously play A Plague Tale Innocence first. I guess you could read like a recap of the story or watch the cutscenes or whatever the deal is with that, but I would just recommend you to play Innocence. I think Plague Tale Innocence is a really good game. Requiem is the direct sequel, and it was built ground up for the PlayStation 5, while Innocence had a PS5 upgrade. Requiem is built for the PS5, and actually initially it didn't even have a 60 frames per second option, and it's one of those games that, unlike Gotham Knights, it being only 30 FPS, it was somewhat understandable given the visual prowess of the game and the technical level of the game. Visually, it's one of the best looking games that I've seen and looks incredible from that standpoint. Now, they actually added a 60 FPS option or a performance mode option after the initial launch of the game, so you can check that out as well. And I've always been of the mindset of giving Asobo Studio a lot of credit for what they've accomplished with A Plague Tale as an IP for a variety of reasons. First of all, in this generation, coming up with a new IP and having it resonate with an audience is very, very difficult with so much competition, so many long-lasting franchises, and IPs that have already been established. Even beyond that, Asobo Studio was a relatively unknown studio prior to A Plague Tale, so the fact that they were able to create this new IP as an unknown studio, I give credit to them as a studio, I give credit to Focus Entertainment for investing in the IP and the studio, and they did a phenomenal job with it. Hopefully we will get a third Plague Tale game at some point, but the fact Requiem is being added with Plus Essential, it's fantastic. Yes, it was a part of Game Pass day one, but we'll take what we can get, and Requiem is still a game that goes for, you know, 25 to 30 bucks, so that's a really, really good addition there. Alright, moving on from that, let's go over some Plus Extra games. I just mentioned Gotham Knights. Well, I'm gonna give Gotham Knights a mention here. Coming from Warner Brothers Games Montreal, obviously WB is publishing Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League here shortly. That's a game I'm a little bit skeptical on, but it is a Rocksteady game. We'll see how that turns out. I liked Gotham Knights and a lot of aspects of it. Now, I wouldn't say it was worth $70. Far from it, and there's a reason why this game's price point cratered so quickly after its initial launch. Absolutely not worth $70. Absolutely egregious that it doesn't have a 60 FPS option, given the fact that its visual capabilities aren't even that crazy. I know it does have co-op in this open world, I get that, but still, from a visual standpoint, like, I'm sure you guys have seen some of the comparisons of, like, Arkham Knight and Gotham Knights. Arkham Knight looking just as good as Gotham Knights, and the fact that it is limited to 30 FPS is whack. What I do like is the different playable characters. You've got Nightwing, Robin, Batgirl, and Red Hood, and while the overarching narrative does play out the same, playing as all of them does add a little bit of replayability to the game if you do want to do multiple playthroughs. I thought the open world was fun to explore. I thought the overall story was fine, and a lot of people thought it was really good, and the combat was fun. Would I say it's Arkham good? Absolutely not, but is it a good game in its own right? Yeah, it's decent in its own right, and it just being a part of a subscription service does alleviate the fact that, you know, if you paid $70 for this game, you got absolutely ripped, but nonetheless, it's now part of a subscription service, and with that, I would recommend the game. Next up, Final Fantasy VII Remake INTERGRADE. Look, we're coming up on the release of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I gotta recommend this to a couple of people. First of all, a lot of you guys probably played the game on PS4. Maybe you didn't check out the INTERGRADE, the Intermission expansion, excuse me, and that centers around Yuffie, and I would highly recommend you to play that. If anything else, replaying Final Fantasy VII Remake is definitely something I know a lot of people want to do. I'm trying to get a playthrough of the 7 remake in before the tidal wave and tsunami of big releases coming up here in mid to late January into February, because after that, it's GG. That playthrough ain't gonna be happening. I love the FF7 remake. I thought it was great. Obviously, it is the introductory portion of Final Fantasy VII and that story, and really, you're just scratching the surface of the overall story of FF7, but I thought the remake was fantastic. Thought the combat was great. The visuals are fantastic. It being a part of a subscription service is great. Now, it should be noted that you actually get a copy of this game if you do just buy 7 Rebirth on the PlayStation Store, so, you know, that is an option. For those of you that have never played FF7, I highly recommend you to do so. You know, it might be the game that gets you a little bit more into Final Fantasy. I would say that 16 is probably the best Final Fantasy game to play if JRPGs just push you away. Literally happened to one of my buddies recently where, like, 16 is his game of the year for 2023, and that man vehemently hates JRPGs. But nonetheless, FF7 Remake, certainly a game you want to play in January ahead of the release of Rebirth, whether it be doing another playthrough, whether it be, you know, playing the game for the first time. Definitely a good shout there. Next up, want to give a shout to Eiyuden Chronicle Rising. This is the introductory story to Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, and it's a side-scrolling action RPG. Pretty cool throwback art style. It's a little bit on the shorter side compared to, you know, big JRPGs. It's about 15 hours long. 100 Heroes is coming out later this year, so definitely a good time to play Eiyuden Chronicle Rising. I know a ton of people are excited for 100 Heroes, and that's a game that I am super looking forward to and hoping it turns out well. But Rising was a fine action RPG, and it's a game that goes a little bit under the radar with the Plus library, so definitely check that out if you're excited for 100 Heroes. Next up, you know, I imagine most of you guys have played PlayStation first-party titles, but if you played Days Gone back when it came out in 2019, I would say definitely give Days Gone another shot on the PlayStation 5 because it runs so well on the PS5. The PC version is great as well, and, you know, Days Gone is a game that the hardcore fans of the game really want a sequel. Like, they're begging for a sequel. They are down bad for a sequel. Like, I'm down bad for, like, a Gravity Rush 3, but, yeah, that probably won't ever happen, but Days Gone is a worthwhile game to play if you never played it. Your first introduction to the game being on PS5, oh, you're gonna enjoy this game so much more than a lot of people did on PS4, because one of the big, really drawbacks to this game was the fact that there was a lot of performance issues and a lot of bugs attached to that. Now, playing it on the PS5 doesn't alleviate all those issues, but it certainly makes it a better experience, and I would recommend it. Days Gone has a lot to like. It's not as good as the top-level PlayStation exclusives, but it's still pretty damn good in its own right. Next up, we are coming up on the release of Dragon's Dogma 2, so why not give a shout to Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. Now, this is a very challenging action RPG with a sizable amount of content. It does show its age a little bit, given that it's, what, at this point, 12 years old, or maybe even, yeah, 12 years old. It came out in 2012. This version has the Dark Arisen expansion. The only drawback about this version is it takes out the phenomenal theme song for the game, but what can you do? Dragon's Dogma is still a fantastic game. Just be mindful of the fact that it is a pretty challenging game. So yeah, be prepared for that. Next up, want to give a shout to Child of Light. This is a game that I constantly go to bat for. One of the more unique games that Ubisoft has put out. Great art style, pretty decent story, and a competent and well-made RPG from a combat standpoint as well. Goes under the radar at this point, but when it comes to games like this and Valiant Hearts The Great War, another Ubisoft published game, always like to give them a mention as they are a little underrated. Lastly, we have 3 more games that were added to the service in December. I want to give them a mention. Shadowrun Trilogy is one of those games that's not being highlighted a lot, I should say. The Shadowrun games in general. This is 3 separate games. Shadowrun Return, Shadowrun Dragonfall, and Shadowrun Hong Kong. Most of December's attention is catered around Grand Theft Auto 5, and understandably so. It's GTA 5. But Shadowrun is an awesome throwback RPG. Good visual style, good setting as well. If you like the cyberpunk aesthetics, that's going to be right up your alley. And really great writing as well. You know, they're not blowaway RPGs, and certainly from a technical standpoint, they're not going to appeal to you as, like, let's say, some of the big RPGs of recent memory, but for being a part of Plus Extra, I would definitely say give these games a look. I think a lot of you will be pleasantly surprised by it. Mega Man 11, you guys know I'm a big fan of Mega Man, and Mega Man 11 is a throwback to the original Mega Man titles, but uplifted from a visual standpoint. Great 2D platforming action gameplay, good visuals, and relatively accessible for newcomers as well, while being relatively challenging if you do want that. I think that's always a good time, and, you know, play more Mega Man, and hopefully we get more Mega Man, because it's a franchise that, yes, while we've been getting a lot of collections and things of that nature, new games is something we don't get a lot of, and I'm hoping that'll change here shortly, and I do think it will. And lastly, another Final Fantasy game, Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, did drop. Now, this is a Souls-like Final Fantasy title. It's a little bit goofy from a story standpoint. It has one of the more comical main characters in Jack. Like, Jack is such, I don't know, like, kind of such a goof, but at the same time, it honestly makes the game even funnier. The story isn't something I got super into, however, the ending of this game was really well executed. The soundtrack is really good, the gameplay is pretty decent, visually, it's fine. I wouldn't say it's blowaway, it is a cross-gen game, so keep that in mind, but I would say, you know, it wasn't worth 60 bucks, but at the price of itches being a part of a subscription service, I think it's a worthwhile playthrough. Don't expect something at the level of the From Software games, but expect something decent, and you'll get that with Stranger of Paradise. But that will do it for me. Again, a lot of great games available with Plus Extra that are available. Hopefully the January catalog update will be pretty good, and after a really great Essential catalog of titles, it'd be great if we follow that up with another great update when we get that in the middle of the month. But for now, you can check these games out and definitely give some of them a playthrough in January, especially before the wave of games in end of the month and February, March, and all that good stuff. That'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.